Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Big East Rewind. I'm Chuck Everson, your host from Villanova University, and my partner, as always, my main man, the good doctor, Sonny Sparrow. How are you, Sonny?
Chuck, I'm great. Got one of my favorite people on the show tonight. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And you listen, we're out of our comfort zone a little bit. I said because it's off season. Last year we had Jeff Nelson on from the Yankees,
Hmm.
and we had Leonard Marshall from the
Yep.
Giants, and we had a lot of fun with those guys. And we talk different sports when it's off
So
season. It's in between the
let me preface this for
basketball.
1 second. Let
Yeah,
me preface 1 second.
go ahead.
I love this guy, but I have mixed emotions.
Okay.
I have mixed emotions. He's
Well,
part
look,
of the
don't jump
demise
the
of
gun,
my
Sonny.
early adulthood. He knows this because I've already had this conversation
Don't
with him.
jump
But
the gun, Sonny.
I just want to
You're going
I
to be a
love him.
spoiler alert again.
One of my
Everything
favorite
I tell
people,
you.
but he did. He was the source of some sorrow and heartache in the Spira
Well,
household.
listen, we're gonna have to we're not gonna rub it in, I promise you
Yeah,
that, but
please.
you're gonna have to relive it, Sonny. I'm
I
sorry.
can't. If you show me that replay one more time, someone's going down.
Oh boy.
So, without any further ado, Sonny, our guest today is a member of the 1980s NFL All-Decade Team. He's also a member of the New York Giants Ring of Honor,
Ring of Honor's huge.
two-time Super Bowl champion, and he can be heard on Sirius XM NFL and on WFAM radio from Michigan State University, number 58, our buddy, our pal, Carl Banks. How are you, Carl?
I am great. Thank you guys for having me, man. This is fun. Obviously, we've done some fun things together, but just me being here is such a treat.
Well,
Look
thank
forward to it.
you for supporting us the way you do. We appreciate that, my friend. We've been friends a number of years now
Number of
from our
years,
good
yeah.
friend Wayne Smallwood, right?
That's
I
right.
mean, it's been a long time, Carl. We've been hanging out, but
Yeah.
I gotta say, thank you for your support. Thank you for bringing us into the Garden with you for the Big East drop with Starter and Macy's and Herald Square. It was awesome. We had a lot of fun. Learned a lot about the business too with the cameras and stuff. Normally as we do these on Zoom. It's a lot of fun doing it live. We had a great time doing that, and appreciate you for letting us be a part of
Hey,
that.
Chuck, Sonny, we gonna run it back again. And
All right.
the first drop, we called it Beast of the Big East. And this will be the sequel, Beast of the Big East, Still Beasting.
I like it. All
I'm
right,
in.
we're in.
I'm
We're in.
in. I had a
So
great time.
now that you mentioned Big East, okay, because I know we're here to talk about some football too, but before we get into that, I
Hmm.
got to ask you about two topics concerning round ball basketball. Okay,
Okay.
you're all geared up with your starter Big East gear. Okay,
Hmm.
so talk about how your Johnny's made out with
You beat
all
me
of
to
the
it.
the
That
new
was my
guys
question.
coming in. They are loaded, Carl.
Yeah, so
Loaded.
so this is, I call it free agency now, right? It's not
Yeah,
even recruiting classes.
Correct.
It's free agency. They don't have a high schooler on the roster, so it is pure free agency. Listen, they've got a ton of talent. And I think the one thing that St. John's realized after their exit in the NCAAs is that they need better shooting because in to the credit of Coach Pitino, he coaches every style of basketball. So, but I kind of drew the parallel of what Tom Thibodeau got out of the Knicks, right? From a talent perspective, he got every ounce based on his system, right? The St. John's Red Storm, they got everything they could be playing their way. Their best player had his worst game,
yeah,
right? And when things are not clicking the way that they have been all year, they didn't have a way to get back in to the game because they did everything else they did well. The things that were in their DNA. They played good defense. They rebounded the ball well. They didn't get the shots that they needed, and they missed free throws, right?
yeah.
Free throws were something that plagued them early in the year. and then it came back to haunt them. So I think what Coach Pitino and his staff did is, okay, they went back, they did a deep dive into, okay, what type of players do we need to compete beyond the Big East? Um, he says we need more shooting, and they got a lot of shooters, but um, they have guys that can defend as well because he's very demanding in that phase of his program. Like you got to defend, you got to rebound, but he's going to have some shooters. He can stretch the floor a bit more. They lost a few kids that I thought were good shooters, but they replaced them with better.
Yeah, and they
And
stacked up with talent. I mean,
Yeah,
they picked up Bryce Hopkins from Providence, who is going to be a monster this year. I think he's going to have him. He's got something to prove. He's got a chip on his
right,
shoulder, coming
yeah,
off
staying in
an
the league,
ACL injury,
right.
and he's
staying
ready
in
to
the
go.
Big
In
East.
fact, I have some inside intel for you, Carl. I was with
Okay.
Sean L. Scott, former St. John great.
Yeah.
I had lunch with him and
They
Reno.
have a nice podcast too.
They do. They're
They
all
do.
on the St. John stuff. They
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
They do.
And they're really good. So we had lunch together and he had just come from practice.
Hmm.
And Reno, myself, and him had sat down and talked a little St. John's at the Greek family restaurant. Let me give them a shout out because they're awesome. That was Louis' spot we used to go to with
Louis
Louis.
spot.
Okay.
Yep.
So Chanel tells me that they are getting after it. I mean, really getting after it, you know. And I have no doubt with Coach P. I mean, he's that guy, you know, you better be in shape when you step in the door to go to class.
Yeah.
So, you know, you better be ready to roll when you get
Yeah,
there.
your
But
fitness
he
level
said the
has to be high.
guards are shooting the hell out of the ball. The
I
kid, I
can
think there's a kid
imagine.
from Iowa State and there's another kid from Arizona State.
Yep.
Those three and Bryce, those three guys are killing it. And of course, Zuby is he's a man amongst boys. He's going to have a breakout year, I think.
Yeah. So you talk about the practices, and so he let me come to a practice last year. They practiced at the Garden, and I saw something. And you guys played, so you played for some really good coaches. I had never seen this before. And I, pretty good high school basketball player, and we pressed a lot. They ran half court offense, 5 against 4, 5 offensive against 4 defensive players. And he was coaching the hell out of the defense. And because I thought when I went back and I thought about it, like, okay, he's basically teaching them where he wants the ball to be shot, right? So there are all these choke points, and I'm like, he's going 5-on-4, and he would stop it if a shot gets taken where it's not supposed to be. And I'm like, this is why they play such good defense because they're
Right.
playing, this 5-on-4 thing, and it's a long period. They do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could get guys to understand the rotations on
Yeah.
that defense, and it doesn't look like there's a man up,
Hmm.
then you've accomplished what you accomplished.
Yeah, and I think that's the fruits of their labor this past season. They were a really good defensive team. But I have to ask, when we talk about shooters, right? Why didn't Eric Dixon get drafted?
Well,
Is
that's an excellent question because I was going to ask you the question because R.J. Lewis was the MVP of the Big East.
Yeah.
Doesn't get drafted. Eric was the leading scorer in the nation.
Top
Doesn't
3-point
get
shooter
drafted.
too.
Yeah, does
Right.
not get drafted. Now, you know, it goes to show you it doesn't go strictly on talent. It goes the NBA, there's only 2 rounds. So
Mhm.
there's only 60 guys getting drafted out of all the guys that play. There's only 60 guys getting drafted. You got to fit somebody's puzzle, you know,
Yeah.
otherwise you're not going to get in. Now, I spoke with Eric throughout the process. He had a great attitude about the whole thing. He wound up signing a 2-way with the Lakers.
The Lakers,
So he's
yeah.
going out to LA. I think that was all done before the draft came out, so he wasn't too upset that he didn't get drafted. Yes, you know, it bothered him a little bit, but he'll be out and ready to go. I think he's got to work on some things. There was a lot of guys that came out of Villanova in particular that signed 2-way deals that did pretty well. Colin Gillespie just signed. He was
Yeah.
a 2-way deal with Phoenix. He just signed to be on the big club this year. So that's a new avenue for guys that wasn't really available before.
Yeah, so I guess the two-way is good. And I think for Dixon, he's going to be up more so than
I
down,
think so.
because when you look at him live, he's got the body, right? He's 6'8" and can shoot it.
All of that.
He can go
Oh,
inside, outside. And yeah, maybe there's some things missing. But then I said to myself, and you guys could tell, you're basketball guys, I'm like, okay, are they some of these good players missing out because of the influx of European players? There's 5 or 6 every year that get drafted, and it kind of pushes those guys off to the side. And, I don't know if the NBA is favoring the success of some of the European players, and they're like, there's a little bias saying, okay, well, we're gonna slot these guys in because they know the style of basketball and they're a little more
mhm.
mature. Is that
You know,
Well,
go ahead,
I
son. Take it.
I think they draft some of those guys the opposite. I think they're young, yet they're fundamentally sound.
Mhm.
So if there's not an urgent need, they're going to be able to put them in and develop them and have them grow because they've already got all the foundation.
Right?
So you don't have to retrain or break habits. You've got that, and they're enamored with that. It's almost like they're going for one and dones over in Europe, and
Yeah,
here they're going for fifth, 6 year seniors, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it. But you are right, right? But you get a guy like Luca who's a little bit of a freak of nature because he's
Mhm.
such a big body guy as a young player. But when he was in his teens, he was playing at the highest level in Europe and doing well.
Sure,
So
sure.
he's
Okay.
ready. But I think a lot of guys aren't. So they're going to be more than patient to bring them along or get them on these two ways
Yeah.
or kind of hide them. Like Boston's known to hide guys and then they bring them in. So
So, so I'm sorry for cutting you off, Sonny. So the 4 players that Big East players that I'm gonna watch for, 3 of the 4 are two-way players, right? So you got Dixon, who I think he's gonna be an addition for a really good addition for the Lakers because they need shooters and they
they
need
need
guys who
size
can
too.
score, right? Um, Kadari Richmond, who I think has the best basketball IQ of all of them. He's in Washington, so
Yep.
there's a chance he'll get. But I think he's an NBA body. He doesn't have the prettiest shot, but he gets around the court. He knows his way around the court. Micah Peavy, who I was always impressed with him, and
Hmm.
then RJ Lewis. I think RJ he could either hit the ground running, or he's gonna have kind of a you got to catch up to speed with the way the NBA is played because he's got the skill set, but I think his inability to adapt in that tournament game was the thing that probably says, okay, can he mentally
Yep.
adjust when a team does something you don't like? Right. And I could, he was frustrated and he's still a young kid. But I think if he can learn to make his adjustments when someone has something to counter what he does best, I think he could hit the ground and could have the earliest success of them.
I agree. And you know what? I think that you hit the nail on the head with that. I think they're questioning his mental toughness a little bit because
Mhm.
I think he could have benefited by going back for one more year and then
Yeah, but
coming out and facing adversity again and fighting through it this time.
but think about this. What Rick Pitino said, he has achieved everything he could possibly achieve at St. John's. So basically, he was saying he's peaked at St. John's. So he just have to
Right.
go somewhere else to play. So wasn't one of those deals where they thought he could add to what they wanted to do going
Right.
forward, right? So I don't know if going back to college was going to be the best alternative for him. I
Yeah.
just think, to your point, when you talk about the mental toughness, and I was having this conversation of all the, watching St. John's, he never dunked on anybody, right? It was never, and I am the biggest RJ Lewis fan, right? But that dog, right? And I'm not saying he doesn't have it, but he just never dunked on anybody, right? And
Right.
Not like Kadari did.
right, right.
Yeah,
So I mean, there's a guy that really goes after it, and it's okay to be a finesse player because he is an aggressive player. He's not soft, right? But I
You
just
can't play
think
for Coach Pitino and be soft.
there's another, I think there's another element that he's got to kick into at the next level. And I think he will because I think he's got the skill set and I
Right.
think he's willing, but I think the mental adjustment is going to be the thing that will either get him on the fast track or keep him in a developmental state until it clicks for him.
So,
Well, as
I
a pro
take,
athlete, you know that yourself. I
Yeah.
mean, going from college to the NFL, I mean, it's a whole different game. It's faster. It's more powerful. These guys are powerful
Yeah.
guys. You know, it's all of that. You know.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll look, even at NFL level, I'll look at players and see them so gifted athletically, and it just doesn't click,
Yeah.
right? And then you hope by year 2 or 3 it does. Some guys it never
Yeah.
clicks, and they end up being super talented special teams guys, right?
well,
That
go
you wish they could, develop into what their skill set is, and it just doesn't sometimes.
I think Coach Pitino's comment, the way I would take it was, okay, he wants to go pro. The highest compliment I can pay him and support him basically is he's done everything he can do here. Big
Right.
East Player of the Year, got us in the tournament, got us here, got us to places we haven't been in years. The whole thing. It was just a great compliment. I don't think it had anything to do. Like if he came back, there's no way on earth Rick Pitino wouldn't open that door and say, "Come on in."
Sure.
You
Okay.
know,
Well,
I don't because he's too big. He's too good a talent.
Yeah.
Prove that. And now if you put a couple better players around him, lights out. You know.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, they got a good squad now. I mean,
Yeah.
they're ranked in the top 2 or 3 preseason. I know it's way too early
Everywhere.
for that, but yeah.
Yeah, but they're ranked everywhere.
But
So,
the thing about basketball, unlike football, the rankings are pretty true because I think because it's so few players on
yeah.
each team
Right.
that you could really take an assessment and say, yeah, they're worthy of being top 5. And normally those teams come out and they play to their ranking. As
Mhm.
opposed to football, when you just got so many different personalities and guys start reading their press clippings and it's too many moving parts,
Yeah.
right? And there's an offensive side of the ball, a defensive side of the ball, all different personnel.
Right.
And so
And you
the
get a key
rank,
injury.
right, you get a key injury, it just unplugs the whole thing. But or you get a few guys who thinks they're on easy street on one side of the
Mhm.
ball or the other, and you take a step back. In basketball, it's 5 guys. They all have to work together, and there's not 3 different
Right.
phases, right? There's not a kickoff return team, and there's not a offense, and there's not a defense. So when they get these rankings, they normally get them relatively right.
Yeah.
And like you said, right, that young man has to play offense and he has to play defense and he has to
Yep,
be in a system. And
correct.
that system has to work. And the transition part of the game, which I think St. John's excelled at,
Mhm.
is really where I think all the parts come together and guys play freely based on their abilities. And
Yeah.
that's where you just can't fake that.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Like look
Well,
at the Pacers,
let's
right?
pivot
Indiana
here,
Pacers.
guys, and let's talk about you, Carl, for a second. Okay. Beecher High School in Michigan, right? You
Flint, Michigan.
come out in 1980 and
Mhm.
you go to Michigan State.
Mhm.
Did that so the year before it was Magic versus Bird in the Final Four.
Correct.
Did that have any influence on you at all in making your decision to go to Michigan State?
Can I tell you it had everything to do
I
with
I
knew
knew
it.
going
you were
to
going
Michigan
there.
State.
I've
Actually,
never
No,
asked you
no,
that, but
there's a backstory to it, right? I was relatively highly recruited as a player that didn't have a position in high school because I played offensive tackle and defensive tackle.
oh wow.
Most of the college recruiters watched me play basketball because I was 3 years and maybe 4 years all state and was pretty good. And so when I started getting calls from the likes of Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Michigan State was bad. They were just coming off of probation. Daryl Rogers literally, when he recruited me, I want to tell you how my visit went. He talked to me like this the entire time. Never pulled his newspaper down, right? So that
Folks, he's
follow
holding the book in front of his face.
holding the in front of, and he never took it down. I promise you. And so the only reason I went to Michigan State was Magic Johnson's conversation and his word. So Magic and I had been friends because I used to go to basketball camp and we used to be in the same camp together. He used to host one with Dr. Charles Tucker. And so he knew me. He knew me as a basketball player, but he also knew me as a football player. But the school, of all the schools that recruited me, Michigan State was by far the worst school in terms of talent and program because the program was in transition.
Yeah.
You know, it had just come off of probation.
You rolled the dice then.
No, I had faith in Magic Johnson.
Wow.
So
That's a lot of faith.
I had two things going for me. My high school girlfriend's sister went to Michigan State, and all she would talk about when I was a senior in high school is how great the campus was and the people were so good at Michigan State, right? So she's like, you just give it a look. So I says, okay. And then on my visit, Magic said to me, he said, I know the program isn't the best right now, but you could be part of the change. And he said, this will be the best college experience that you'll ever have. He said, this campus is great. The people are great, and they will appreciate you for what you do for this program. And I called Oklahoma and I says, I'm not coming.
Wow.
And thankfully I didn't because Barry Switzer put them on probation that year. But Magic was the only reason I went to Michigan State.
Wow.
The only reason. He and Gabriel McGill, my girlfriend's, my high school girlfriend's sister, but I was just doing her a solid and just going to see what the campus was like, right? But during my visit, they couldn't sell me on a lot of things, knowing that I had just come back from Oklahoma, I just visited Ohio State, so it was kind of one of those deals where I was local. I was 30 minutes from home. And Magic, when he told me that, I was just like, okay, I'm doing it. And that was it. And I have zero regrets. Zero regrets.
Great.
And, you know, all Big Ten, 3 years in a row, the first
Yep.
player in Michigan State history that was a non-kicker, that was all conference 3 years in a row. I think I don't know if they called it the Buckets Award then, but I got it my senior year. So it was, you know, it was a great experience for me. We didn't win a lot. My highlight was beating Notre Dame. But I played well in every game, so it was all good.
There you go. And that got you third overall pick in the 84 draft, right? I mean, you were the third guy picked in the whole.
I don't know what got me picked because, yeah, I do believe that got me picked. But the thing is, and you guys, we're of the same era, there was no internet, right? So the college football rankings of players was
Yeah.
Streets and Smith. Remember Streets and Smith
Yeah.
magazine?
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
Street Smith.
Oh yeah.
There was a preseason edition that came out maybe in August, right before the season started.
Right.
There was a mid-season one, and then there was the one that the postseason where they give you the All-Americans and all of that stuff, right?
Right.
And in the summertime, because you know, in Flint, I worked at a graveyard. I was a grave digger since 10th grade. And so, you know, in my downtime, I grab a Streets and Smith. My name was not even honorable mentioned in the preseason, right?
Yeah.
But I was hearing and I was seeing some of the big names, right? Leroy Selman, all the greats in college football. And then my year, that I was coming into my senior year, I wasn't even a thought. Now I'd been all Big Ten for 2 years straight, but I wasn't, based on the kids from Texas and Arizona, Arizona State, Kansas, Tennessee. I'm looking at all these linebackers. I was nowhere to be found. And then I was like, okay, I just went and played. Um, had a great senior year. Jack Ham from the Pittsburgh Steelers came and worked with me in the spring. That really refined,
Wow.
how I play linebacker, and I'm forever grateful to Jack. But then, I finished my senior year. I didn't get invited to the combine. I didn't get invited to the Senior Bowl, the
What?
East West Shrine Game, or the Hula Bowl. All the glamorous bowl games that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
best players go to, right? And by the end of the year, Streets and Smith had me as an honorable mention, right? And I was an All-American, but they had me as an honorable mention as one of the best players coming out. So um, I remember like it was yesterday. George Perla said to me, he said, "You're a pro linebacker." He said, "People don't know it." He says, "I'm going to tell you what you have to do. And if you do it, I guarantee you, by the time you get home, you're going to be invited to every bowl game. You're going to be invited to both combines." He says, "But it's the blue gray game." The blue gray game was played in Mobile, Alabama on Christmas, and it was cold, but it was coached by all NFL coaches.
Oh, there you
So
go.
I went to the blue gray game. I know I was defensive player of that game. I might have got MVP. I got to find the plaque. When I got back from that game, I went to my coach. He called me to his office. He says, "What did I tell you? You said, Coach, you said that I would, be invited to the combine and, some of the bowl games." He pulls out and gives me a list of all the invites. Both combines, Senior Bowl, Hula Bowl, and I didn't go to the East West Shrine game. And I was on the Bob Hope um, All American team. So that's how it all started.
Wow.
And so then, I get to the Senior Bowl and I get a chance to see some of these guys. Reggie White was there, a lot of greats, right? Um, but some of the big names didn't come to the Senior Bowl because of the USFL, right? Some guys had signed. And um, so I'm there, and Bill Parcells tells the story that he was the one that was watching me from a distance because he had just drafted Lawrence Taylor, who happened to be the best, linebacker, best football player in the league. So everybody wanted to see who Bill Parcells liked on defense. So he tells the story, he has to stand all the way across the field and pretend like he's watching somebody else as he's scouting me at the game. So I'm still so unassuming. Played that game, played well. I go to the combine, and this is where I get to see all of these guys up close and personal. And they were fast, they were big egos because they went to these great schools and they went to all of these, college bowl games. And I was there and I saw like Wilbur Marshall
Oof.
was not big, ran like a freaking 4.4. Um, then there was a guy named that played with him at Florida called was it Jesse Bendross? He was like 6'5", 260 pounds and ran like a 4.5. And I'm looking at
Wow.
these guys, I'm like, wow, okay. Now I hadn't seen them play football a lot. I watched national games, but I wasn't in their region. Um, so I went home after both combines, didn't know where I fared, right? And my coach said, "Don't worry, you're gonna be drafted." So okay, he didn't tell me where, and I don't think he knew where. Um, so on draft day, I go to the coach's office to watch the draft. He says, come over and watch it. And I was literally the first player taken on draft day because Dean Steinkuhler and Irvin Fryer, they were drafted, pre-drafted because of the USFL. So teams could declare what players they wanted. So those players were picked before draft day. So
Okay.
the first name called live was Carl Banks to the
Wow.
Giants. And I knew nothing about the Giants other than, I knew they had Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson, but they had just come off a bad year too. Um, and Bill Parcells um, called. It was a brief conversation. He says, hey, it's Coach Parcells. We just drafted you third, and I didn't draft you to sit you on the bench. Somebody will be in touch with you. That was it.
Wow.
There was and so I get, to New York, and this is the funniest thing ever. My trip from the airport, and this is when, the Twin Towers were up, and we're driving down the turnpike, and we had passed the Twin Towers a ways ago, but there's town Secaucus, New Jersey, right by the stadium.
Sure.
Yep.
There's two buildings, Harmon Cove Towers. And there's these
I
two
got married
things,
right
right?
near there. Just so you
Right?
know, I got
Yeah,
married
and
in the building right
I
next
ended
to
up living in Harmon Cove. So I'm driving, and Vic Del Gershio was the driver from the airport. And I said to Vic, are those the Twin Towers there? Now I come from Flint, Michigan. So the tallest building for us was probably 8 floors. Um, And so I look and I see these two buildings, and I just innocently said, are those the Twin Towers? He burst out laughing. He says, no, look out the back window. You see those big tall ones behind us? And so I ended up living there, but that was my first experience in New York. And then I come into my first practice, and that was kind of an awakening.
What was your welcome to the NFL moment, Carl? Like you come in,
Um,
you're there at practice, you walk on the field. What was your welcome to the NFL moment? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I got it. My welcome to the NFL moment was before I took the field. It was my first time meeting Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson. Um, I'm coming out of the training room, and they're both sitting on chairs. And I go over and introduce myself, and I say, hello, Mr. Taylor. Hello, Mr. Carson. I'm Carl Banks. Lawrence was kind of indifferent. Hey, what's up, homeboy? And Harry Carson said to me, so what the hell are you going to do to get on the field with us? And I was like, oh, okay. Um, and then practice happened. And I saw something that I'd never seen before. Lawrence Taylor practiced faster than I ever played a football game.
Wow.
Literally, I mean, I had never seen anything like it. And I worked hard. Pretty confident in my abilities, but I looked at this dude, I'm like, woo, he's different.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was faster than I'd ever played or ever seen. So that was my welcome to the NFL moment. And then people always ask me, well, how did you settle on the number 58? And I wore 54 at Michigan State. And Andy Hedden was the guy who wore 54 for the Giants. And he came up to me after the first practice and he says to me, yeah, I know you wore 54 in college. I'll sell you my number. I think at the time it was for like 40 grand.
Oh shit.
And I looked at the equipment manager I says, give me whatever number you pull out of the bin next. And so he pulled, I mean, it was a bin full of jerseys, and he just reached down and grabbed one, and it was 58. I said, I'll take that number. And
Wow.
that's how 58 happened.
You
Really,
got
there's no horoscope story. There's no moon or
No
star.
Jack Lambert, none of that.
crazy. Yeah, none of that stuff, man.
It was just I took the jersey they gave me.
I
So
love it.
that
Lace them
defense,
up. Let's go.
what
Yeah.
you mentioned two guys from that defense, LT and Harry Carson, right? That
Mhm.
defense was one of the most dominant defenses of all time. Has to be, right, Carl? I mean,
Yeah.
when you think about dominant defenses, there's 4 or 5 of them that come to mind. And I want to talk about this for a second because
Okay.
I think it's interesting. And all of these defenses have these crazy nicknames. You got the monsters of the Midway, the 85 Bears,
Mm-hmm.
the Steel Curtain, the
Mhm.
76 Steelers, the 71 Vikings were the Purple People Eaters,
Uh-huh.
the Big Blue Wrecking Crew of 86, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the Legion of Boom. And if you want to throw in there the 2000 Ravens with Ray Lewis and how they stopped the run that season was pretty
Mhm.
amazing. And I know you're biased, and I know you're a humble
You better be
guy.
biased. You better be.
Where do you put your crew in that mix, Carl?
We're top
'Cause
five.
you're in the discussion, man. I mean, there's no
We're
doubt
top
about
five.
it.
So amazingly, we get omitted a lot. I don't know
Really?
if it's a New York bias or what. When people start talking about the great defenses,
Yeah, Dallas was a doomsday
Um,
defense. We forgot that one.
we don't talk. They don't talk about our defense. It's a modern day defense. I don't know why, but we were. I give us a top 5 or top 6.
You have to be top 5.
Yeah. I mean, we were domineering, and we did it for a long time. It just wasn't a year, right?
Yeah.
But then, I think another team that doesn't get the credit that it should in the scope of great defenses, the Philadelphia Eagles. When Reggie was there, Jerome Brown, Seth Joyner, they were a hell of a defense too.
Yeah.
And they did it more than one year, right? We talk about the
Redskins were
Bears.
okay.
Redskins were good. They were good.
The NFC East was a bear. Was
The
a
NFC,
Yeah.
the NFC East was loaded, man.
But it was like, if you want to look at dominant defenses, right? And you talked about the Purple People Eaters, and you talked about the Steel Curtain. They did it more than once, right? They were dominant for a long time.
Yeah.
The Bears had it once. Now they were good, but they were dominant once.
Right.
The Ravens were historically dominant, right? But they were there once. And they always had really good teams, but that was their one dominant.
Right.
They just bludgeoned people. But if you drop us in with the Steelers as consistently dominant football teams,
Yeah.
Minnesota Vikings, consistently dominant football teams, the Doomsday defense was consistently dominant, right? That's where
Yeah.
we are. We weren't the
Yeah.
fancy flash in the pan where you can just say, okay, well, you weren't better than the Ravens. I was like, well, for a long time we were. They were really good the one year. The Bears were really good the one year, and I'm not taking anything away from those guys because they still had great players, and that's the facts. But I think Buddy Ryan's Philadelphia Eagles needs to be in that discussion because they were good. They
Yeah.
were a great defense for a longer period of time than the Ravens. They were more dominant for a longer period of time than the Ravens. They belong in that discussion because from a longevity standpoint, and they were in the toughest division in football.
Sustained excellence. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
The NFC East, and here's the thing, in the 80s, the road to the Super Bowl always went through
Yep.
the NFC East in
Mhm.
San Francisco. So all the Super Bowls of the 80s, with the exception of 85, belonged in the NFC East. And thankfully for us, Washington had Philly's number. styles make fights because we struggled against Philadelphia, but we owned Washington. Um, and
Isn't that
so,
funny how that works,
yeah,
Carl? You know,
yeah,
because
That sounds a little
it
bit like
happens to us like
Villanova St.
St.
John's
John.
and
Yeah, St.
Georgetown.
John's had our number, but we had Georgetown's number,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. And they could
Funny.
never break through Philadelphia because neither us or Washington would take a step back.
Right.
So if Philly beat us, they still knew on the schedule they had to play Washington twice. And as long as we were beating Washington twice, it wouldn't matter.
So I got to ask you, we'll talk about the sustained excellence. Now we got to go into my painful history here.
Mhm.
All right, so take us back. We're in Tampa, right? You're playing the K-Gun. Bills, they got this unbelievably dynamic offense. They're running the 2-minute offense the whole game. They're not subbing, you're going to have to do X, Y, Z. Your coach, the young coach, Bill Belichick, comes up with a game plan that you guys didn't really necessarily love, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was going to let the running back, let Thurman Thomas get 100 yards or whatever it took, but he was going to keep the ball out of their passing lanes.
Correct.
But yet he put more defensive backs in. Talk about the preparation for that game. And then the next question I want to ask you is there is a mindset of championship teams that just takes over, even in moments where maybe you're not the better team, but the mindset is we are not losing this.
Correct.
And you guys had it. So I want to ask you the game plan going in and then your mindset as a champion.
Okay, so the game plan going in, and this predates the glorification of analytics, right? We call
Right.
we call them tendencies, right? You guys call them tendencies, and
Yeah.
if the tendency is in football anyway, if the tendency is prevalent for 4 games or more, it becomes a trend, right? So I give you that as kind of the foundation for how this story takes shape. We start that meet. We beat San Francisco, and we are in Tampa for our first meeting. And Bill Belichick, and he's always big on letting us know um, what teams are, what trends, what players doing what. So he starts the meeting off by saying, and he knew it would get our attention. He says, "We're going to let Thurman Thomas get 100 yards." First words out of his mouth.
So that was Parcells?
That was Bill Belichick.
Oh, Belichick. Okay, I'm sorry. That's what I thought, but yeah.
He said, "We're going to let Thurman Thomas get 100 yards rushing." We lost it because
Yeah, linebackers, you gotta be pissed.
we
Yeah.
didn't let teams get 100 yards.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Unheard
so
of for your
we're
team.
like, "What the f you talking about?" Right? He did not explain himself. He just put on the Oakland Raiders AFC Championship game. It looked like fast break basketball.
Yeah, it was an embarrassment. Yeah. Yeah.
Before the Raiders could get in their pass drops to their areas, the ball was caught and run. I mean, literally, Raiders defenders had their back to the quarterback, and by the time they got to their point to look, for receivers, ball was out. I mean, it was fast break basketball. So we saw that, and we were like, okay. And he says, okay, so this is when he brings it all together. He says, the reason Thurman Thomas, if we allow Thurman Thomas to get 100 yards, we're going to win this game. And we're like, okay, explain it, genius. And he says, we went back and we looked at Buffalo, and what we noticed is they stopped running the ball after week 4. He said the only run they had was a draw to Thurman Thomas, and it was every once in a while in the game. He said their running game was the swing pass to Thurman Thomas. That's their outside run.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so if we can devise something that would take away the pass game. We would force them to have to run the football. And he said after week 4, they stopped running the football, which means that it's no longer a tendency, it's a trend. This is their offense. And he says they're not going to change it back because they're playing us. They have this as their offense. So we're like, okay. So then he puts up our defensive front. He says, we're going with all linebackers and 1 down lineman. He said, now linebackers be prepared to play down. We may put 2, but that's it. And everybody else, we're gonna pre-align before the ball is snapped. We're gonna see everything. So he put 10 basically linebackers and defensive backs on the field. And we rushed 2 guys, and we could blitz, but we literally had 9 guys in coverage, a lot.
Which is unheard of in that year.
Right. And so what we were basically doing is creating speed bumps. So ball snap, Andre Reed's coming across the middle, somebody's banging him, right? He keeps running.
No, not banging him. They're racking him.
Racking him, right?
Ooh,
he gets past the next guy.
Yeah.
He gets racked again. And
Sure.
so nothing they did. When the ball was out, we saw it, we tackled, right? And as good as we were defensively, you see the game still came down to a final kick.
Yeah.
Right. But our goal was to punish their receivers.
Yep, that's the word.
And then offensively, run the football and take as much clock as possible. I think our hero of the game, because when they lined up to take that final field goal, I don't think anybody on our team, if they made the field goal, we'd tip our hat to them. I don't think anybody would have been, disappointed in our performance. But the hero of that game in that moment was Sean Landeta. Because if he doesn't get the punt that he has, their starting field position is different.
Yeah.
And where we finally stopped them was outside of Norwood's range. And so when you talk about every phase of football had to be on point, that was a classic example of that. And then
100%.
the week before that, we're in San Francisco. We win the game on all field goals. Right? They score 1 touchdown and the rest are field goals. But we're doing, our field position game, our punter was good, and our kicker, Matt Barr, was excellent. But we knew we had to do our job in keeping them out of the end zone and just hold them to field goals. And we did enough in terms of forcing punts and getting our offense in enough field position to where if we can get 2 first downs, we could kick field goals. And that's what we did. And we got a key turnover against Roger Craig, and that was the game for us.
How difficult was it, Carl? Like, Phil goes down, with 2 games left with the foot injury? Now Jeff Hostetler's your guy. He's a totally different style of quarterback. He's more of a scrambler, right, than Phil was, right? And so you're going into that. I know it's next man up mentality. We know that. I said, but did these guys have to make changes to some of the offensive or defensive schemes based on who was now the head of the offense for you guys?
Well,
that had to throw a little bit of a wrench into things, no?
No. It basically gave us an extra tool in our offensive toolbox if we needed it.
Right.
So the difference then and now, so Jeff Hostetler, when he was called, his number was called, there was no doubt in our mind that he would be able to execute our offense and do a really good job because we faced him every day in practice.
That's
practices
key. That statement's key right there. There was no doubt in our mind it would
be because our practices,
that's the champion mentality.
Right. And the practices were different then. right? It was the scout team was demanded because our defense was so good, right? The scout team had to try to make plays on us. So we knew what Jeff could do, right? And
Right.
Jeff came in, we were in the same class together. And Parcells beat the hell out of him, because he wanted to play. But Jeff did whatever they asked him to do. He was a tough guy, mentally tough, because Bill took him through it a few times, made him
Yep.
play special teams, did all of these different things. But we always had his back. But when he took the reins, there was no doubt in our mind he was going to do a really good job, because he was just that, he was a tough guy. He fit the mentality that we all had as a team. And um, that was the one thing that, if you want to know what made us champions, it was a mentality of fighters, right? It was one man's fight is every man's fight. So if somebody cheap shot at one of our guys on offense, one of their guys on offense was going to get cheap shotted. I mean, we just never allowed anybody to punk us, right? So
Yeah, you can't.
whoever our weak link was, right? We made sure that he was never exposed, and we always knew, we always put a battery in his back, just to say, you just play hard, we got you, right? And then there was this element of accountability. And again, we talked earlier about so many moving parts on an NFL team. The way Bill Belichick had our defense set up, he could ask one question and know exactly who was at fault if something happened. And so we had this element of accountability. So if a team hit a play on us and Bill went down the line as we're sitting on the bench, what did your guy do? What did your guy do? What did your guy do? And if a guy did not represent what actually happened, Bill would say, you're lying, and we got to get it fixed. He wouldn't yell at the kid and say, you're getting your ass beat. He said, I need to know the truth so that we can make adjustments so that you
Right.
don't get exposed again. We can do some things to help you. You got to let us know. And so we had a few of those incidents early. And then after that, a guy could come to the sideline and say, look, I'm struggling with this guy. And we all knew, okay, now it's all of our fight. Now we got to make sure, he doesn't get exposed. And Bill would design the defense, and he'd tell everybody, whatever extra responsibility they'd had to have. And he'd tell the guy who's struggling, you just do this one thing and we'll take care of the rest.
I got to ask you a question. One I put out there to our readers and people on our Facebook group. Question there. I want to pass this along. Who was the most rugged and toughest player that you competed against?
Wow. Rugged and toughest player. It has to be somebody from I was going to say Philadelphia. No, it's somebody in Washington. So for me, direct competition was Donnie Warren, tight end for the Redskins. And it was um, two guys, and we joked about it when we saw each other. It was, remember the cartoon where the two guys, construction workers, one guy was Ralph, and they say, good morning, Ralph, good morning. And they would go at it, and then afterwards it was over. That's Donnie Warren and I. I mean, we go at each other. So he was just the toughest guy I ever played against outside of Mark Bavaro on my own team. Donnie Warren was that guy because he never said a word, didn't talk trash, but was tough as nails, and he give you everything you could handle.
Love it, man. That's a straightforward answer. Thanks. Chuck, you got it.
So one other Super Bowl question. In this particular one, this particular game, the wide right, Norwood wide right game.
Really? You had to say that, right? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So
thanks.
you're standing there. I mean, and you've been through it before, because you've already been to one Super Bowl a couple of years before. Now you're here. What's going through your mind as you're waiting on the sideline and Whitney Houston is belting out one of the greatest renditions
by
of the
far.
Star Spangled Banner ever? And I know you're in the game and you're thinking, what am I got? Did you stop and think at all, like, holy this is unbelievable? Like, did you
Yes,
realize the
but
moment that you were in?
100% knew the moment. But I tell all my teammates, you'll see a moment when she's singing and she smiles. And I tell all my teammates it's because she saw me. No, but there's an element of truth to that because I was her daughter and my daughter went to school together.
Okay,
Um, God rest her daughter soul.
right.
Um, but we knew our families knew each other, right? And so for me, as she's singing, and I'm telling everybody, you see this smile, and I know she sees me. And people are like, nah, she was just that was just part of what she do. But it was the most incredible moment watching that national anthem because of where we were as a country, right?
Yep.
Yep.
What America needed to feel great about what was going on. And she was the one that kind of put it in the right, to put the right energy into our ether, if you will.
And when those
Yeah.
jets flew over the top, because I was at that
Ah,
game,
that
that
was
was
incredible.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it
That
was
was
incredible.
goosebumps. I got them now thinking about
100%.
it. I
That's
never seen
wild.
anything like it. Yep.
That's wild. And then afterwards, okay, now you're champs. What were the parades like in New York? So you were down the Canyon of Heroes, I'm sure,
Wait,
right?
wait,
You
wait. We
guys,
got to go through
No,
parades now, man.
no,
what do you mean no? What do you have it at the
no.
Meadowlands?
Yep.
Oh my
So
goodness.
how about this? How about this?
Come on, Carl.
How about this?
You got to up your
The
parade game.
mayor, the mayor of the mayor of New York has a fight. This is from the 86 team. The mayor
Right.
of New York had a fight with the mayor of Moonachie, New Jersey. And he kept referring to the Giants as New Jersey's team. And they were going back and forth. And so he decided, we're not having a parade for you. So after the 86 Super Bowl, we had a big celebration in the stadium. After the second Super Bowl, because America was at war and, the towers were, down, they didn't have anything come through the Canyon of Heroes for security reasons. So we missed out both opportunities, but the fans showed up at the Meadowlands and it was great.
Yeah. So, okay, talk about now playing. I got to ask you about him because he's one of my favorite athletes of all time.
Iconic. He's iconic.
Yeah. Talk about playing with LT
There's no
and
one else like him.
give us a couple of LT stories and talk about what it's like playing with him.
I don't, I have a few that I can tell,
Yeah,
but
the ones that you can tell, Carl. Right.
the
I have
one
a few
We
the
can
ideas.
one
save
that
the
you,
other ones for a beer and a cigar somewhere,
the
buddy.
one, yeah, those are the ones we have to have a beer and cigar. But the one thing that I'm sure in your lifetimes as basketball players, you've seen somebody that was just different, and you wondered, how are they doing this? And you notice that they see the game much differently than everybody else.
Yeah, like Pearl Washington.
There you go.
Good. Yeah.
Um, and they just move different, right? And I spoke earlier about how he did things in practice that I'd never done in a game. And so when you talk about the gift of a guy like him and a guy like Michael Jordan, and you just wonder, how the hell what did he do? And then you try to emulate it, and it's like, this is humanly impossible. Or, his ability to see things and plays and understand why he doesn't have to do certain things and just go straight to the play. Um, so he's known for his nightlife. In New York, we all had a lot of fun. Thank God there was no internet. Um,
That's right. We could say
but
the same thing in
That's a
Philly, Carl.
preface. Yeah.
sure, every Thursday night um, was a big night in New York. And, you know, he'd leave from wherever he was that night and come straight to practice. You know, his wife would only call to make sure he made it to practice. Um, so this particular Friday, and we're getting ready to play Washington, he missed the entire morning. After lunch, he shows up. And he shows up, we're in our defensive line room and we're installing our pass rush. We're about an hour into the meeting, and Lawrence kind of shows up, comes in with shades on, crawls under a table, lights are out, and he's out. He's knocked out. And we're trying to figure out, you know, how we want to, how we, no, watch this. We're trying to figure out how we're going to approach our pass rush with Washington. We're in it for an hour, back and forth on the chalkboard. And, you know, he's a key component to what we do. And our coach put the lights on and he says, God damn it, Lawrence. You would think your ass would be awake for the most important part of what we do and what you do. So Lawrence gets up from under the table and he pulls his glasses off because it's shades. And he says, what are you talking about? He says, we're trying to install the pass rush. She's like, yeah, I know, but what are you talking about? And he says, well, we're trying to figure out how we're going to rush. He says, just cut the film on. Cut the film on. He saw 2 plays, did not rewind it, didn't say run this back. He saw 2 consecutive plays. And he got up, cut the light on, went to the chalkboard, drew up our entire pass rush.
Holy shit.
And we're all gobsmacked, right? We're like, and he's, you know, he tells us why, because this guy's going to do this guy's going to do that, and this is what we have to do. And he gave us like our entire game plan. And then he puts his shades back on. He says, can I go back to sleep now? And literally, we're all like
incredible.
this. And that was our game plan, a very successful one. But he saw it so much different, right?
Yeah.
And I told you, you know, people think he didn't work hard. He did. But like seeing the game differently, when you talk about coaches that are in meetings with players, now coaches have their own meetings and they have game plans, and then they come in and they're trying to implement in our meetings, and we're here for an hour and they still hadn't come up with the precise thing that we wanted to do. And he sees 2 plays and dissects the entire thing and says, this is what we're doing.
Wow.
And it worked. That's
Yeah.
that's the best of LT. Now the fun part of LT is a little different. You know, there's some road stories that we could tell, but you know, he shows up late one I don't know, this was Dallas, I believe. He shows up to one of our meetings late. And there's just this commotion by the door. And so he comes in, he's got a sweater pulled over him, and he just crumbles to the ground. And we just hear like clink, 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 clink. And we don't know, we're just laughing. But there's still stuff going on by the door of our meeting room. And he's just like, just run the film, just run the film. And then there's Dallas PD show up at the room. And we're like, what the fuck is going on? So he gets up and he leaves the room. And, you know, it doesn't seem like it's trouble, but we realize he's fucking got handcuffs on. One of the players from another team sent a girl to his room and the girl put handcuffs, but they were handcuffed that not every key could open. So they had to actually call Dallas PD, who had this key for this set of handcuffs, to get them off of him. But that was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah. That's got to be nuts.
That could have went another way.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and then you played probably for two of the greatest coaches probably ever to coach the game, in
Yeah.
Belichick and Bill Parcells. Talk about that. I mean, did you see in Belichick back then what he wound
Mhm.
up becoming? And all the Super Bowls and stuff. And could you
Well,
see
Yeah.
you did call him a genius.
Yeah,
You did
well,
call him a
Yeah.
genius.
But the beautiful part about Bill Belichick is, again, when I told the story of how he operates on the sidelines, right? He is so much for player feedback. Most of who he is, he developed as a Giants coach, working with them. And obviously, he had some of the best players to play the
sure.
game, but the ability to make adjustments was the thing that stood out most about Bill Belichick. Um, but he made adjustments not based on his ego, not based on what he thought was happening, but he did it based on the feedback that he got. And then he refined his playbook the next week. And he just kept adding to it and adding to it. And if something new happened with us, he would add it to the playbook, right? And one of I think it's in the same Washington game that Lawrence, dissected or implemented our game plan. We had a defense where I was supposed to follow the tight end and Lawrence would go the opposite, right? So it was a cat and mouse game between Joe Gibbs and um, Bill Parcells. So tight end motions over. I follow the tight end. Lawrence stays on the same side. The tight end motions back, and I'm supposed to go back with the tight end. I'm sorry, tight end motions over. Lawrence is supposed to go to the other side now. He doesn't. Tight end motions back, and they think I'm going to go back with the tight end because I'm following the tight end. Well, we both got stuck on the same side. And Lawrence says, don't follow the tight end, stay right here. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, I got to go with the tight end. He says, no, just stay right here. Don't follow the tight end. They snap the ball. He and I rush off the same side. All hell broke loose because they didn't know which one of us to block. And both of us came free. And it wasn't in Belichick's game plan. It wasn't in uh, the playbook. And so we got to the sideline, and Belichick said, "What happened there?" Lawrence says, "Oh, they're just trying to jerk us. They're moving this tight end around to see if they could get us off guard." So I told Carl to stay, and we're going to both rush the same side. And it was so effective. Belichick put that in during the game. He said, "Okay, this is great," is what he said. He said, "Now we're going to call it over something something." But he said, what we have to do, once they know we're doing this, we got to make sure that they don't run the ball back to where the tight end is because we don't have a linebacker there. So what we did was every time they did it, Lawrence and I stayed together. But the beautiful part and the genius of Bill Belichick, he says, we got to balance it out. So he moved the defensive end out a little wider. So now Washington didn't know what to do with it because we had balanced our defense by actually being unbalanced and making them unbalanced. But that is some of the adjustments that make Bill Belichick great, right? And then the greatness of Bill Parcells is he knows all of these things as well. And then there are times during the course of a game where Bill Parcells will say to Belichick, "What the hell was that you called? Why the hell did you call that? You know that's not going to work because I don't have a safety who can do that. Or I don't have a corner who can do that. Don't call it again." Right.
Yeah.
And that's why you always see Bill Belichick with a pencil in his ear and he's always writing. He's always writing something down. And so that's how he developed. I think Bill Parcells had better football instincts that went with his knowledge of the game. Um, Bill Belichick was more methodical. He always wanted to know the why. The Parcells, so it would be, if you had to compare the two, Parcells would be the LT to Carl Banks's Bill Belichick, right? I'm more methodical, more the technician, and those guys just saw it, right?
Yeah.
And Bill Parcells could see clusters and know exactly what was happening. Bill Belichick would want to know why was the cluster there, right? And Parcells is like, I'm not wasting time on this. I'm just telling you this is what's going to work. And but Bill wanted to find out every option off of something that they did.
So you
Last
have a
question.
bunch of favorite quotes from Parcells because he's known for the let him throw up on his time and hey Jumbo, that's not Michigan State. Like you see these clips, right? Like he had to have like a wall of quotes like Roley had and Boeheim had.
Yeah, I don't think we wrote any of them down, but it's
All
one of the things that,
right.
when he had a guy that was injured and wanted to practice, and if you took the field, in practice, you couldn't complain about your injury. And, not knowing, some of the players didn't know that he was pressuring the trainers to get us out there anyway. But he talked to a guy, how's your ankle? A guy says, sore, coach, but I'm gonna try to give it a go. And he'd look at the guy and says, don't tell me about the pain, just show me the baby.
That's good.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, Carl, we're getting up against it. I have one last question for you, and then we'll wrap it up. But if you were talking to a young athlete,
Hmm.
okay, you have made the transition from professional athlete into the
Hmm.
business world. It seems like it was, seamless. Went
Seamless.
right through and have had similar, if not more success off the field
Hmm.
than on the field. What would you tell a young professional about when the ball stops bouncing or when the pads are come off, the helmet comes off? What would you tell a kid
Yeah, life after.
that's
What is it?
life after pro sports?
So starting even when you're in college, right? There's this thing, and the word doesn't get used because it's a word that was used in the 1900s, if you know what I mean. It's called Rolodex,
Right.
right? There is very few people that are privileged enough to be big time athletes at the college level. And then it's even fewer to be professionals. And then there are even fewer to be really good professionals. But the one thing you have, once you go to college, you are now being exposed to the world's largest Rolodex. And especially in today's sports, because the business of sports can take you anywhere you want to go if you're intellectually curious, right? There's not a sector of industry, not a single sector that doesn't have some adjacency to professional or college sports. And if you think I'm lying, sit and watch a college football game and see the types of commercials that come on. Right? So if you have an interest, anything, right? If you're from Biloxi, Mississippi, and you don't have a lot of people in your town and you want to open up a mailbox store, UPS store, well, they do business with the NFL. They're a big sponsor of teams, right? You ask the right question, they can put you in touch with the right people. And
Right.
then that's when your process starts. But here's the thing. Don't wait for the ball to stop bouncing or, you know, uh, play your final down or take your final at bat. These are the things that you should start to do no later than the second year you're in sports. And it's not like you got to hit it out the park and be this business mogul as a set, because you have the main thing is still the main thing, right? But you have off days. And then this is your apprenticeship, right? Because when you look at while we're playing sports in college, the kid that is studying to be a doctor or he's a
Right.
business major. Our path is here, straight up. Theirs is like this, slow, 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 slow. So by the time your career is over, they're CEOs, they're investment bankers, they're all of these things, right?
Hmm.
But if you are keeping pace with your learning and your development professionally with those guys, then you have a real job that's making a lot of money and you're developing a skill set that will make you very successful outside. Because the thing about sports that the average person doesn't have to deal with. Now we can talk about discipline and we can talk about adversity. Try getting the shit knocked out of you and having to get back up in 30 seconds and do it again.
Hmm.
In every single thing, no matter what the sport is, right? If it's baseball, you strike out, there's a win-loss proposition every single opportunity. You don't have a quarter to correct it. You can't say, well, this quarter we're going to be down 2%, right? The guy in front of you is going to dunk on you if you make a mistake. He's going to continue to dunk on you, and you got to keep getting embarrassed, or you make the adjustment, right? That's the difference in sport as in regular life. Now,
Right.
take that mindset, and now you don't have to put on pads, you don't have to put on sneakers, right? You can deal with adversity a lot differently because you don't have the luxury. You never had the luxury of having a meltdown, right? Because it was success, failure within the shot clock, within the play clock. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you take that element alone, mentally, you're prepared. And then you talk about what it took to get to where you are, right? And how hard you had to work. This is physical, but you have to be physically and mentally ready to do that. The other side of society and business, there's no physical element to it, right? Um, Now, business can be a little tougher because they don't have referees. But what you are built to do, if you can start to apply some of those things while you're playing, by the time you step away, you can be super successful in whatever you want to do because you're already mentally built for it. And if you're part of a corporation, and this is not always about entrepreneurship. It's not always, you don't have to own everything, right? If you work within a company and you want to be part of upper management, you also have the benefit of working with different personalities from different walks of life, religion, and you had to count on each other, right? And your religion and my religion didn't matter for 60 minutes or for 48
Right.
minutes. You know what I mean?
Right.
We
Right.
fought, we fought for each other. And the days we practiced and the cliques in the locker room, you had to navigate personalities and everybody had to come together, right? Take that guy and put him in a corporation, and I guarantee you get people to work better together because that's how things operate in sport as in industry.
Wow. What a great answer, man. I mean, that's unbelievable. And that's why you're as successful as you are today, Carl. I mean,
Yeah, just listen to the way you answer a question, right? You listen, you understand it, and then you give a full description. And if we don't understand it, you'll stop and explain it better. That's a gift, and that's a leadership gift.
wow.
That's the Bill Belichick effect too.
I guess that's
It's the
right,
Bill
man.
Belichick effect and it's the Bill Parcells effect. You know,
Bill
Bill
Parcells
Parcells used to
effect.
always say, I told you, don't forget. And he says, remind yourself to remember not to forget to remind yourself.
Wow.
Put
You
some
gotta
string on
pay
your finger,
attention.
like it's a
Yeah.
wonderful life.
Well, listen, man, as always, thank you so much for coming on and hanging with us for an hour and sharing your time with us. We appreciate you. You know that. And we'll see you down the road soon, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank
Thanks,
you
Thanks,
guys
brother.
for
5'8".
having me, man.
Appreciate
All
This is
you,
right.
awesome.
Think
58.
for a
Thanks.
second. We'll give you a proper goodbye.
All
The
right.
you've been listening to and watching the Big East Rewind with Chuck Everson and Sonny Sparrow. The Big East Rewind was produced and directed by Nick Chico Chorus and Daryl Gurney. Check us out on the SiriusXM app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Take care now. Have a great day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.